Hi there, it's Michelle from CNC Designs. I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator in New Zealand. And today I wanted to show you a card that I created using the Nothing's Better Than stamp set and the new Give It A Whirl die set from Stampin' Up! So this one is I call it a decision card. So you can spin it to decide what your day is going to be. So today's plan, consume cookies. And then this one opens up. It says because adulting is hard, and this is a easel card. So it folds open and stands like that. So you can see the message, and you can continue spinning to decide what your day is going to be. So I'm going to show you how to do this card, but I'm going to do it slightly different. So I'm going to do it as a normal left fold card, so it opens like a regular card, but I'm going to show you a few different tips and tricks on how to create this spinning section here. Now the Give It A Whirl dies are in the new catalog, and they're actually designed to create a card like this, where you have a cutout section and you simply spin the center part to get different pictures or words, etc., showing up in that opening. But I'm going to do it different. So let's get started. I'll move this out of the way. So I'm using the Nothing's Better Than stamp set, which has coffee, cookies, cocktails, chocolate. It also has a die set that goes with it to cut things out if you want to add some depth. And Give It A Whirl dies. They have the main wheel, and then they have different shapes that you can use to design your card. And I'm going to use one little die from the tag die set, the tailor-made tags. I'm going to use the little circles that come with that set, and I'll show you that in a minute. So you need a card base. This time I'm going to do with the real red card base. So this card is just going to be a normally opening card. And then I've got two pieces of basic white cardstock, just slightly smaller than the size of the card. So one's going to be for the outside and one will be for the inside. On my original card, I used designer series paper for the background, but this one I'm going to do it slightly different and do some stamping on it. So you also need thick basic white cardstock to cut the wheel out. So that's the spinning wheel, and I've already pre-cut that. And then I've decided to use this shape, which is normally used to cut the opening in the cards. I'm going to use this shape for the section at the top. So I've already pre-cut those items, and here they are. There's a circle. And I've done it with thick whisper white, so because you're going to be spinning, and then that's going to be for the words. Now this set also comes, the opening, you can have that shape, or you can have a circle, you can have a rectangle, you could have a heart shape, and there's other little dies here with it, and there's different size hearts. So I've already gone and cut out of the real red one of the small hearts to cover up the brad that's going to be used in the center, and this one I used a slightly larger heart there, but I've gone with a smaller one now that I know the sizes I need. And then, as I said, I also used the little circles from the tailor-made tag die. Now that cuts 4 out at a time, and I'll show you what I'm going to use these for in a minute. But when I cut them out, I put some tape on the back, some tear and tape on the back, so it'll make it easier to stick down so I don't have to use glue. But I will also need the little arrow. So that little arrow there, to make it stiff enough, I've cut multiples and stuck them all together. So for this one, I'm going to do it with the real red. And again, to make it easier, you could put, we have adhesive sheets that is like double sheets with double-sided tape, but because it's a small piece, I'm just going to use a bit of tear and tape, and I'm just going to stick the tear and tape on the back of a scrap piece of the real red. So stick that down. And I want to cut the arrow. So there's a little die there that's got a couple different size arrows that you can cut out for the Give It A Whirl set. So I'm going to die cut that, but I only want the big arrow, so I'm going to cut it this way down with making sure that it goes over where I put the tear and tape. And I'm going to cut 3 or 4 of those so I can layer them up to make it thicker. And I will go do that in a minute. Now while I'm at the die cutting and embossing machine, I'm going to put this through again. So as you can see, there's marks on here, and you get these kind of like triangular shapes. Now with the regular card, you don't really see them because they're hidden in there. You don't really notice them as you're spinning it. And they're actually quite good for placement of the stamps to be in that window if you're going to use that size window. And the reason you get those lines is when it cuts it out, the pressure pushes on that metal and it puts like embossed lines there. But I don't want those to be seen because the card we're doing here, the circle will be at the front, and I'm doing 4 images, so I don't want those lines to be seen. So you could just take a bone folder and rub on them to make them rub out, but the tip I have for you is just use your embossing machine. So put your bottom plate down, put that piece on top, and then just put a piece of scrap paper over it, and then your top plate. Now the scrap paper is there because the top plate, even though I use 1 plate for the top only, it does get a few marks on it, and I don't want any extra marks going on there. So sandwich it up like that, run it through your machine, and you'll find it will flatten out any of those embossed parts. So I'll come back in a second and show you that, as well as cut out my little arrows. Okay, now I'm back. So I ran that through, and you can see the lines have disappeared, although it did pick up a bit of the marks from the plate, especially you see on the bottom. So when you're doing something to smooth it, I suggest you put some paper on the top. So those lines have now gone. So I've got my circle there. And then I've run that through with the tape on the back several times to give me lots of arrows. And that's with the little die there. It gives you different size arrows. Now some of the tape came off the back as I was taking them out of the die. So what you need to do is, with your little arrow, peel the backing off. This one, the backing's coming right off. Whoop. And then just layer them. So that'll just give you a thicker arrow. So when you spin your wheel, the arrow is more noticeable. You could just draw an arrow on a piece of cardstock if you want, to place it where you want it to be on your card. And again, I took the paper off the back. It's already got the sticky double-sided tape, and it's much easier than trying to use glue to stick this together, because you end up having glue everywhere because it's very skinny. And as you can see, hopefully, how thick that is. Now I still have a bit of tape on the bottom, which I'll use to stick it in place. But now it's made it thicker and sturdier little arrow for our card, so it can point to the right parts and not get bent. So those are our different pieces we need. And so let's go ahead and stamp. So the inside of the card, I'm going to go with the same words I had with the other. Because adulting is hard, and I'm just going to stamp that in Memento Black. It's one of my favorite inks. I use it quite often. It's just nice black, nice, easy to use. Now I might add some decorations on the inside later on. I'm not sure. I haven't decided, but so you always stamp on your card first before you stick it down, because if something happens to it, there's always 2 sides to every piece of cardstock, so you can turn it over if you have an oopsie moment. So that's for the inside, and I'll set that aside for a moment. Now the outside, instead of doing designer series paper, I decided I would do a different decoration. So for this part, I've decided I'm going to put the words from the stamp set, the coffee, cookies, cocktails, and chocolate, because on my original card it was just the images. So you know, you don't know necessarily that that's a cocktail, but you can decide what it is. For this, I'm going to put the words, and to make it quick and easy, I've actually stuck all the words on one big block, and I'm just going to stamp it multiple times to basically create my own background piece. So again, I'm going to go with the Mento black. Sorry about the shaking on the camera. I'm just getting it inked up. You could go with a different color. I could pick out, you know, the color of the background. So I'm just going to, I've already kind of positioned these just randomly around, keeping in mind where these pieces will be on the front. And then just keep inking it up. So I could stamp each one individually, which was my original thought, but then I decided, well, it'd be quicker on video to do them all in one go. And I can also show you how to take advantage of your larger blocks. And so I can just put these at different angles all over the card. So I played around a little bit trying to figure out what was the best angle to do this at. And I kind of came up with this idea because the pieces will be covering here and up there. So I might just put a few slip of word or two at the bottom. Maybe I'll fit chocolate in here. And then I might be able to get cookies just to fit right there. Oh, not quite. Now the nice thing, I don't know if you notice, see I'm missing a few letters. Because it is a clear stamp and the ink is still on the stamp, I just didn't give it enough pressure. I should be able to line it right up, looking through the stamp and the ink, put the pressure where it needs to be. There we go. And so without inking it up again, I got the rest of my word. So this will sit here and that will sit there. So you just see hints of the words. We can see chocolate, cocktails, cookies. Only one we don't see is coffee. We can see part of coffee there. So that's good. And I will go to the next step. I'm now thinking maybe the inside of the card, I'll put some of the words around the edges because that would tie in this inside piece. I might just put the words going up the sides afterwards because that would tie in with this. Now that's the background. I'll set that aside. So now on our wheel, this part here, we want to have the today's plan consume, and we want to have it slightly up so we can get our arrow down at that bottom point. So again, go with the memento and just stamp it best you can. So there's today's plan consume, and then you'll make your decision by spinning it. Now because I still have the sticky on the back there, I'm actually going to do another arrow because I don't want any sticky sticking out here to go on there. So I'll do another arrow and stick that down in a minute. So the wheel, we're going to do our different options. So I start with the cocktail first because it's the biggest stamp, and that's the center. You can see the hole in the center to put your brad through. So I'm just going to put that on so I can see, And I might actually mask off the bottom. Looking at that now, I'm thinking I don't want the bottom to be seen. So I'm just going to put a piece of paper there. So I don't want the bottom of the cocktail to be shown through, so I'm just going to put the paper there so I'm just seeing the top of the cocktail, so I get the glass and it just looks like it's not on a stem. There you go. So you don't really see a lot down there. I could have taped over it if I wanted to, if I thought of it first. And then opposite, I'm going to put my chocolate. I think I'll put my chocolate opposite up a bit so you can see it. And then we'll go with the two other sides. I'll get cookie in there. Now this cookie outline has some crumbs showing, so I'm going to put it up so the crumbs can be kind of seen sticking up the top. And then our coffee. Now the coffee, on my original card I had it up high. I think I'll put this one a bit lower, and I can put some steam coming out from the top of it. There's a little stamp to show you some steam, so I'll put this a bit lower. And there's a little stamp shows steam, and I think that would look good with maybe a lighter brown. So I'm going to bring in my crumb cake and put some of that steam up. Just coming up, swirling up here. So there's a little steam coming up. Now I'm going to color these in. Originally I used my Stampin' blends and I colored them, and then I also see how they're a bit shiny. I use the shimmery crystal effects to put some shine onto them. However, it takes a while for that to dry, so I'm going to do it slightly different. I'm going to use the stamps images in the set. There's actual solid images to color in everything. So I'm going to use those to color them in, and then I will do clear embossing powder to give it a bit of shine. So here I'm using crumb cake to do the cookie, because of course you get crumbs with cookies. So you just go straight over it. Being a photopolymer stamp set, it's see-through, so you should be able to see right where you're placing it. So it's a two-step stamp. And then with the chocolate, I'm going with the early espresso, which is quite dark. That'll give you that nice, yummy, dark chocolate look on these. So again, just going straight over, it just goes close as you can, checking all sides. Usually the center is all you need, but it gives you just a kind of a washed look. Oop, there we go, that's quite dark. It will dry a little lighter. And it's quite dark because my ink pad's very juicy. Then I'm using soft suede for the coffee. Now with the coffee, it does the it also does the saucer in one go, so trying to line up the saucer as I go down. And that came out a bit darker than I planned, but so you can see how it does the saucer as well. And my cocktail is going to give us a bit of color here. So Flirty Flamingo for the actual drink. So it could just be a pink lemonade. So if you didn't want it to be a cocktail, it can be pink lemonade. This stamp's really nice because it actually does the outline of ice cubes. So you get some pretty ice cubes. And then there's even, you could color the rest in, but there's even little tiny stamps for these two little bits here. So I've put them on a small block, and it's like a half circle for the, could be a lemon or orange, but I'm going to do lemon, so I'm doing Daffodil Delight. And we're just going to go in there and just quickly do a lemon wedge. And then for the little umbrella, the cocktail umbrella, I'm going to use Pool Party. And it's got kind of a strange looking shape there, but it fits perfectly inside that umbrella. So there we go. Hopefully I got it. There we go. You'll see the little... So it's kind of a bit of a brown card. My original card, I colored my chocolates in different colors, so it wasn't so bad. Alright, so that's this part done. And now to put it together. So in order to make it spin, I needed a bit of height for my piece of card there. Because if I put the brad straight through there, it'll hold it too tightly to the card and it won't like spin freely. So for this, you can just spin it freely, and it then makes your decision for you. Where the set was made that you spin it slowly, and you can look at the different images popping out of the card. So I need to add a bit of height to the card, and that's why I cut the little circles from the tag dies. Tailor made tags, I keep forgetting. So I cut some little circles from that, and I put adhesive on the back to make it easy to stick down because you don't want any excess glue. And I'm going to stick a few of them on the front and the back right where that circle is, and that's going to give me a bit of height that will allow me to spin it easier. So just peeling off the tape backing. And it doesn't matter that's not a perfect circle because you're not going to see it, but just stick it over where the circle is there. So I did, I think I did 6 of these, but you can do more if you want. The die actually cuts 4 at a time, but I was doing it on scrap paper, so I only managed to get 2 lots of 3s. So that's just giving you a bit of height where the circle is, so it will spin easier. And because these are wider than the width of the tape, I had to do 2 strips of tape, so I've got 2 lots to peel off. Yep. And I will do that and come back. So now we need to determine where the hole goes. So using your pick a tool, I'm just going to take the end off and swap it over for my little poking tool. And you just have to decide where you're going to put the center based on how you want it to spin. So I've got my today's plan, consume, and I've got that one there. So I put 3 on either side, those little circles, there's there, and that gives it a bit of height. So when it spins, it's going to be not too close to the cardstock. So I'm just going to raise it up a little bit, and looking where that hole is, just pop the tool in just to poke a little hole. Okay, you can use the tip of your sharp scissors if you want, or if you've got a needle, but the pick a tool is great. So I've just put a little hole in there, enough for the brad to fit through. So the brad, we do have the new black and white brads in the catalog. I don't have my hands on that yet, so I'm just using the metallic brads that come in different sizes. So you want something small enough that you won't it won't be seen from the front. I could have this where it's seen, but I like the idea of having the little heart there. So you'd pop your brad through the front, through the hole, and then through the hole that you created in your cardstock or your designer series paper. And then just open it up on the back. You don't want it to be too tight, but you also don't want the brad to spin. You want it to stay in place. So what I found when I opened it up is I put a bit of tape over it. So just put a bit of the double-sided tape over the top just to hold that in place. But I didn't push it really tight, so it's holding it in place, but you still be able to spin it. And it's because of that height that it can spin. It gives it a bit of depth between the top and the bottom layer. Okay, and then if you don't want it to be seen, you can cover it up with something like the little heart. And the best way to do that is with a glue dot. So if I take a glue dot, and again I can use my Pick a tool. This time I will use the little flat spatula side of it. So if I grab the glue dot with my Pick a tool, there's the glue dot there, and I can just stick it straight on the center of the brad. So I picked a brad size big enough for my glue dot. So that's sitting right there. And then I can take my little heart and center it right in the center there. So now when it spins, the heart's not moving around because the brad's not moving because I've taped it in place. Now if I did it the other way and the brad was quite tight, the brad might move around. So the next part is doing the rest of the front. So I'm going to stick this down first and then I'll set that up. But you need to make sure you've got your spinner on there before you stick the top down. Now you, because the spinner doesn't need to spin, this can be stuck down flat. But if you wanted it to spin, you'd have to give a bit of height there. So I'm going to use my tape to tape this down. Or you could use your liquid glue if you prefer. I just like to use the tape so I can get better alignment. And I do find that sometimes if you're in a country that is quite hot, sometimes the heat makes the adhesive of the tape come off. So if that's the case, then you might want to use the liquid glue. And I do little tabs so I can line things up before I stick it down, so it's only exposing a little bit of sticky on each corner. And that way, if it's misaligned, I can pull it up easily and realign it. And then because that's sticky there, I can even peel that tape up, that back off, and that will stick that down in place as well. So let's find the front of the card and just line up opposite corners. So I've only got it stuck down for those edges because that's the only part I've peeled up, and if it was wrong I could easily pull it up and fix it. But it's looking pretty good to me. And then when you're happy, you just peel your little tabs out to get it to line up. Now we want to put our little arrow onto this section, and this is I'm only gonna glue it to the top so the arrow can be sticking down. So here I'm just going to put a little bit of liquid glue. Try to get a tiny bit because I don't want it to be too sticky, just on the end of the arrow. There we go. And then just put my arrow onto the part that I want. Now the other option, I could put an arrow underneath and stick the two together if I wanted to. And just get a little excess glue there. There we go. So that's given the arrow's got a bit of height on it. And I'm going to put some dimensionals on the back of that to give it height so it doesn't interfere with our wheel. Definitely one where the arrow is and then one in each corner. And maybe one at the top just for luck. So peel the back end off there. Oh, I forgot to heat emboss my images. I was gonna make it a bit shiny, doing the stamping and embossing on these sections, which I forgot to do, but that's okay. I could probably even do it right now. I think I'll be able to do that. I'll show you quickly. At least with the chocolate, it should work. I need to find the chocolate image. So making sure your stamp's clean. Get some Versamark. So this is something that I should have done earlier, but that's okay. I will fix it. So I'm going to use the clear embossing powder. So using the same image I had for the inside of the chocolate, I'm just going to put some Versamark on it. Now that's just sticky and it's clear, you're not going to see it. So I'm just going to pop some Versamark right there to make my chocolate shiny. Okay. You can't see it, but it's gone shiny. And that's sticky. And so now I can put some powder on there. If I'm careful. Get a bit of powder just on that Versamark. Okay, now I'm going to heat that up and that'll turn the chocolate bits shiny. Okay. So I managed to get a little bit of shimmer onto there, and I got a little bit, I don't know if you can see on the cocktail glass, but if you're going to do, if you want it to be shiny, do that before you stick the card together. So for the inside, I did decide to add a bit of decoration, so I just put the words on the sides for the inside of the card, and I will just stick that one down quickly. And I have a little bit more embellishment for the outside. So you could just, put whichever stamps you'd like on this. If you have some different food items or other things, maybe you could have a teddy bear or, hugs or something like that on your decision tree. So for the outside, just going to add a few little of these resin hearts, the little red resin hearts at the top, just to give it a bit of prettiness. So we'll pop one right around there, and then another one on the other side. Oh. Just to give it a bit of a match. And then it's done, although to me it looks a bit plain, so I was thinking I might add a little bit. There's this little stamp that looks like those bits from the coffee there. I think I will add a few there with some red to bring some more color into it. So hopefully it'll work. It's always best to stamp before you put things down. But so that's just like a little starry bit. I just thought I might add some to get some color onto some of these parts here. So it doesn't look as plain. Too much brown in it, I'd say. Just kind of a bit of sparkle. I thought about putting some up there, but the trouble is I've already stuck that down and it might not go very well. Oh, I think this is adding a nice little bit of color. So I'm using a real red Stampin' spot here. Now you can buy the uninked Stampin' spots, and it's quite good. You can use reinkers on them, or you can just dab them right onto your ink pad to put color onto them. Or if you buy any of the kits, they come with Stampin' spots. So there's, depending on which kit you have, has different colors in it. So if you buy kits, or if you're in another country that does the paper pumpkin, you might find that you get quite a few colors. Oh. You end up with quite a few colors after buying a few of those kits. Now I'm trying to line that up. I had trouble because I bumped that. Oh, I think that looks better. Got a bit of color coming here and there. Another one like there, and another one right about there. So this stamp set's got a lot of really cute things that you can do with it. Okay, I'm gonna go crazy with too much red. So I think that's just added that last little bit of interest to it. So this one's slightly different than my original. You still have the spinner. This one was using the designer series paper. This is just using the stamps for the background. And then you've got the inside because adulting's hard, so you can spin to get your choice and see what it lands at. This one seems to spin easier. I don't know why. In the paper, I think the humidity is making the paper move. So might be best to do 2 layers of paper. So that is my original card. And here's the one that we did today. So I hope you enjoyed that. If so, please give me a thumbs up. Be sure to subscribe so you can see any other videos that I come up with. You can go to my blog. I sometimes have other ideas and close-up photos of cards there, as well as if you're in New Zealand and don't have a Stampin' Up! Demonstrator, you can go to michellekritchley.stampinup.net to look at my shop and order directly from me, or contact me through my shop if you'd like any more information. And I certainly hope you like that. And I think I'm going to go have some cookies and coffee now. Thanks so much for watching. Bye.